Hey guys, it's Malawak, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Modern. Yeah, so I've been thinking a little bit. There's some discussion on this, and apparently the new Wizards, their innovation sets, their new sort of supplementary set where they do not like a standard legal set thing. Um, it's going to be impactful for Modern, and that got me thinking a little bit about the future of the format. Because Morrow said he was really excited for it, meaning that it's probably not just something like a reprint set or decks or whatever, or pre-constructed decks that they've done, again, both these things a couple times. So the only thing I can think of is that they're considering making a set where some of the cards are legal and modern, and that's probably something that needs to happen. At least for the long-term health of the format. And you're probably thinking, why would I be concerned about the long-term health of Modern? What's going on? What's wrong with this format? Well, let me tell you. So, the problem with Modern is that we've got a very, very big card pool, and it's only going to get bigger every year, and we only have some okay, decent, like interactive spells, stuff like okay counter magic, like that's okay, or removal or whatever. And the problem with that is that doesn't really do the best job of keeping things in check. And like we've seen in the last couple of years, definitely seen these sort of linear, non-interactive decks to take off, and I mean in a big way. And they've always, I guess, kind of been there, but now there's just so many of them that it would be difficult to just ban stuff. Ban stuff to the point where you're able to get the format back into a place that is not ridiculous. To get it back into a place where it's not the dominated by combo decks or linear decks or whatnot, decks that don't really want to interact, and that's not where we want to be. So the problem is that it's a problem of scaling. So when we think of, like, say, boring, shitty, garbage mid-range decks, which are important for any particular format, but it seems to define Modern Magic as just like these shitty, boring, large, mid-range decks doing shitty, boring, dumb stuff, whatever. I'll try not to be so biased, but these decks typically only get better, ironically, linearly. They only, they get a new card. Oh, wow, Jund has Assassin's Trophy. Man, they're really going to be able to put it to Tron now, or something, or not. Or, wow, oh man, Bloodbraid wasn't banned. Wow, this will definitely make Jund not garbage now. So that's not very good. That's not very good. See, the problem with these sort of synergy-driven combo decks or linear decks or whatever you want to call them, any of the decks that are synergy-driven versus like the good stuff decks, is they do not scale linearly. They scale exponentially, or worse. Like there are just some things you just like, oh well, look at this. We'll just print this Arclight Phoenix guy, and then see what happens to the format. Where there's like 2 or 3 different Arclight Phoenix decks popping up, and it was just because of one card was printed. And so these kinds of things, these decks only get better, and with the more sets that are added to Modern, i.e. something that's always going to happen probably for the foreseeable rest of my life, I mean, who knows, at least the next couple decades, this format isn't going to be able to it's like a whale that's washed up onto the shore. It's going to collapse under its own weight. There's just not enough cards to, I guess, police the format, or safety valves, or whatever else you want to call them. And obviously that's a big problem. And it's only going to get compounded. So the format itself is going to become more ripe for synergy linear decks to take over. The more sets that are being printed into standard, and so this problem only compounds, like interest. You can think of it like interest. Oh, like that dude from Hunter, where his ability was interest. God, the dude from the Chimera Ant arc. Well, anyways, I guess it doesn't matter, but and that's a big problem. So looking forward ahead, at least like another decade, like modern will, I mean, unless something crazy happens or whatever, the format will just, I guess I don't want to say collapse, but like it'll probably just go back or keep being about, being more or less, I guess, degenerate. I mean, sure, yeah, like there's, the blue-white control deck is doing pretty good, but I mean, how long is that gonna last, right? Like, it's a big problem. Like I said, the good, quote unquote, good guys, these decks that just play fair Magic. Again, that's the problem with a lot of this nomenclature is just so subjective and it's not super useful, but I'll use it anyways just so you guys understand, because it's understood by most people, at least to some extent. So fair versus unfair, or degenerate or linear, synergy decks versus good stuff decks. That's typically how I like to think about it, but the fair decks just aren't going to really be able to get better. And you don't see this problem in Legacy, partially because of how retarded the cards are in the format. Like, Brainstorm, Force of Will, these are just, like, these things are, then you have all the cantrips. They can play, like, all of the really good cards, the Daze and Spell Pierce and stuff, and it's easy peasy, easy enablers for, like, the miracles and things like that. So, especially, like, since there's basically no chance that Wizards will ever print anything better than a lot of the enablers, things like Show and Tell or Reanimate or Entomb or whatever, into Legacy. It would just be basically impossible. You'll never have this problem in Legacy, and also, of course, just the answers are so much better, and you have even better hosers. Things like Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast and so on and so forth. These cards are A+, super strong, baby, and they help definitely keep things in check. The only other problem is that, as a consequence of that, Legacy is very, very blue, I guess, but that's how formats have to work in Magic. If you have all of these cards, you have to have Force of Will. Unless you just want to die on the first turn or whatever. Most decks don't really have the ability to interact on turn 1 or 0. So, yeah. So Legacy has a little bit of a different problem, but they're never going to have the problem of, like, the formats just turning into, like, these linear sort of things, because A, the answers are so good, B, and the cards that find the answers are also, like, even better than that. So Legacy doesn't have that problem. Modern does. It's just better to try and, like, go under people or over them in the case of something like Tron or Scapeshift or whatever. And there's not a lot of incentive to be like a fair deck, a mid-range deck or whatever, even though I'm not super fond of those deck styles, but a lot of people really are, and they it's what they want to play, and you should be able to play it in this sort of marquee Wizards format. So I'm talking too much. Give me a sec. Gotta take a drink. Yeah, I'm definitely got a lot of thoughts on this. So, bring it all back around. If this newest modern innovation format, hopefully, Wizards takes a different approach to modern and decides that they really need to start putting stuff in there. I hope they start printing specific cards to start dealing with stuff. They've been trying to do it, and they've not really printed any really good silver bullets. You got Damping Sphere and stuff like that, and these other cards they've tried to print, and they just sort of fall flat and don't really do anything. They're fine, but they're not really doing what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah, that's gonna be a big problem. So basically, modern is fucked. unless Wizards actually decides to start actively managing the format and printing cards specifically for it. And I mean like actually printing cards, or I mean, we might start needing to see like some really powerful old cards coming back, because at a certain point, the the number of sets legal in say something like Legacy versus something like Modern, given enough time, it'll be like a difference of 10% or something. So with that many sets, you're gonna have to need maybe something like Force of Will, and that's something important to keep in mind. But who knows? Who knows? It's hard to say what's going on. But the trend for Modern, at least over the last couple of years, has been to be faster, more linear style decks that don't really interact a ton, because a lot of the interaction just isn't very good. I mean, it's fine. Like, you have stuff like Bolt or whatever, and Path, which is okay, but Path just feels really bad. I mean, Path is not Swords. Path is not Swords. Oh god, that card is just ugh. So, yeah. So it's unfortunate. It does seem like to me now, unless I'm like I said, these formats, these metagames can be pretty complex beasts, and it can change with even just the next set. I could be totally wrong, but that does not seem to be where the wind is blowing. So hopefully Wizards tries to get a handle on this before it just becomes too late for them to try and manage it. I remember after was it 2000-ish or so, they banned like a pile of cards, and that was okay. That kind of worked out. I don't know if that's going to work out here. I mean, they could do that, but I mean, the main problem still exists, is that there will always be like cards that will be printed into Modern that will break the format, like similar to Arc like Phoenix, and will cause a lot of problems, even if they do, start nuking, a bunch of different archetypes or whatever, to try and sort of get things in track. So they either need to print specific cards to power up these sort of fair decks, or other decks are able to combat the storm, linear storm decks and things like that. I mean, it's not a good place to be, but they got to do something, and the longer they wait, the worse it's going to get. Especially with people becoming attached to these decks, they want to play them, then they nuke the format from orbit, and that's not good. And that could be exciting. Sometimes bans have an opposite effect, where people are excited to play, sort of like with the recent KCI ban, but we'll see. So basically, TL didn't listen. Hopefully the new Wizards innovation product. I'll put the I think it was a thing from Morrow on his blog. I'll put that down in the description. And it's just basically about him, like a one sentence thing about saying, yeah, the new innovation product will affect Modern. I think it's one of the products he says he's really excited for too. So hopefully we'll see some actual good stuff, not just like reprints, which is nice, but that obviously doesn't solve the issue of what decks are being played typically. On a style of decks anyways, but that's it. That's all. So yeah, this is my opinion. Definitely a little bit more concerned for the health of the format, especially just the longer it goes, the less likely it's going to be fun, I think. So that's it, guys. Thanks for stopping by, and have a great day.